years old when I got sent to a wilderness program. I went to True North in Vermont.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Straight Outta BS podcast. Thanks to anybody that's supported the podcast. Please remember that if you interact with the video in any way, it helps the algorithm. Because I am shadow banned. I'm pretty sure. So it really helps if you share the video, like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave comments down below. It helps push my stuff into the algorithm because the algorithm doesn't like my content because of what I talk about. So I want to do, thank you to my Patreon members. Thank you to anybody that supported me financially. It's never expected, so it's always appreciated more than you know. I want to do a moment of silence for the person still struggling with intrusive thoughts or addiction or anything like that. So on the count of three, I'm going to do a moment of silence. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you for that. Without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce my guest for the day. Go ahead and introduce yourself and where you went and what years.
Hi, okay, so my name is Katy Gross. I live in Austin, Texas. I am married. I have two lovely 8-year-old boys that are the light of my life. I was 15 years old when I got sent to a wilderness program. I went to True North in Vermont. I spent 10 weeks there, 70 days, mostly because I was stubborn. And eventually, once I graduated from there, I graduated from there on Halloween of 2007. And on November 1st of 2007, I was checked into my residential treatment center in Utah, which was Europa Academy. It's not CEDU, but it's kind of like in the family tree a little bit. Um, it was a CERTS program. Um, it was a CERTS program. That was the name of the building that we went to have our therapy sessions.
Okay.
But even though I'm saying all of this with a smile, that entire experience was not a smile. And I actually, this is an old cover. I've since redone the cover. The other old cover's ugly, but I wrote this. 7 Circles of Hell, My Escape and Recovery from the Troubled Teen Industry. And I actually have a sequel that's going to be coming out later this year that is about my life after I left treatment and how the things that I learned while I was in treatment still affect me and help me today. Now, that being said, on the whole, I would call my experience at both programs negative. At my wilderness program, they split you into it's split gendered groups, guys in one group, girls in another group. There's always 2 staff members, and then then there were the 2 therapists. They were husband and wife. They owned the program. One was the therapist for the girls, one was the therapist for the guys. And when you first get there, you arrive at this. The office building is like a house. You arrive there, they give you a pile of clothing and say, here, go change. And they only give you one set of clothing. They gave me some of those like polyester outdoorsy pants that have like the mesh panels inside the legs. I had this horribly ugly pink orange like camping shirts, like the kind of stuff that you would see outdoorsy guys wearing when they go fishing. That sort of stuff is what I was wearing. They gave us 1 pair of hiking boots, 1 pair of Crocs. We got a fleece top, a fleece bottom, and that was it. And everything else was like sheltered gear. We didn't get tents. We had tarps. I had just every night when I went to sleep, I had to take a tarp and string it up on a tree to make a shelter. I had to learn how to tie knots. I'd never tied a knot in my life except a knot to tie my shoes. And it took me a long time to get a handle of making a good shelter. The first night I was there, it rained terribly, and no one would help me set my shelter up. So I woke up soaking wet. The staff should have come and shown me what to do. But part of the philosophy of their program is that when you first get there, for your first week or so that you're there, you don't get to talk to anybody. I wasn't allowed to talk to the other students at the time. There were 2. I was not allowed to talk to the guides. I was not allowed to make small talk with them. I was allowed to ask things like, "Hey, I need to pee. Can we stop the hike real fast for a second? Um, you know, can you pass the pow cow, which is what we call powdered milk? Can you pass the pow cow? Stuff like that. Insignificant comments that meant nothing. I could say those, but I couldn't have an actual real conversation with someone. And going from a very urban environment, because I grew up in Chicago, going from a very urban environment to the wilderness was a huge culture shock for me. And then I like to talk. Ask anybody. I'm a talker. Telling me I'm not allowed to talk to anybody for a week broke my heart. And I cried every night because I was so miserable because I couldn't even talk. And on the sixth day, it was the eve of this girl named Elaine's graduation. And we found this really big log, and she sat on one side of it, and I sat on the other. And we were facing away from each other, but we talked over the top of the log because she could tell that I was going through it and she wanted to be there for me and support me. And so she actually like saved my sanity that day. The next day she graduated, and that meant that I was the only student. And when you are the only student, you are responsible for carrying not only your own gear and rations, you are also responsible for carrying all the group gear. Now, normally it's not a big deal when it's split across 6 to 8 people, but when it's just one person, that's an extra tarp, a cast iron pot, a shovel, and like 10 other things that we need for communally for the camp when we set up for the night. And I had to carry all of it. Bear in mind, when I entered treatment, I weighed 115 pounds. I'm 5'8". I was a twig. When I left wilderness, I had gone up 2 dress sizes because of all the muscle that I had gained. I was still thin and fit, but I had gained so much muscle from the hiking. They gave me school credit while I was in wilderness, which was kind of cool. I know a lot of programs don't do that. But I got a full year's worth of gym credit just from the hiking that I did. And I got science credits and math credits. We did a lot of writing and stuff, so I got the English credits. So I didn't get too far behind in school, which is one of the reasons why I'm okay that my parents chose uh, that facility for me to go to. The other reason that I was more okay with it than others was because they don't good people. This facility specifically requests that the children come voluntarily. They do not want to, well, they don't want somebody getting gooned in the middle of the night. That's not the kind of program that they want to run. And about my therapist from my treatment center and my therapist from my wilderness program, they actually work together now. They both work for the wilderness program. They met because of me. I was their very first common patient that they had. So when I was getting ready to move over to my treatment center, they had like, their handoff call and they became friendly. And Courtney wound up moving and being her admissions director. And it broke my heart to do it, but I had to remove staff members from my Facebook because seeing them, specifically seeing certain ones, was very painful. There was one wilderness guide in particular that I had to get rid of because he physically assaulted me. It was pouring down rain one night. We were on the side of the mountain. I slipped in a pile of mud and fell. I was sitting on the ground in a puddle of mud, drenched, with a huge, probably 140 to 150-pound pack on my back. And I'm sobbing because I am the one who's supposed to figure out where the camp is because I'm the only student. The student is the navigator. The student tells you where to go. And I couldn't figure it out because I had been doing this for like a week. And he knelt down in front of me and he looked at me and he's like, Katie, are you going to get up? And I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And then he slapped me across the face and said, get up, look at the damn map, figure out where we're going so we can go and get you dry. But I'm sorry, the slap across the, he could have said all the rest of it and been effective without that slap across the face. I had a red mark on my face from that. I didn't trust him with one thing after that. And even when I told my therapist what happened, she believed him over me. And he still came in and supervised my group while I was there. Super fucked up. Okay. Super fucked up. And that's just wilderness. Now, the one very, very, very good thing that came out of wilderness was a friend of mine. A friend of mine who we have now been friends for 18 years. We did wilderness together. We did our treatment center together, and we have been best friends ever since. And she actually lives here in Austin with me, and she's my son's godmother. And I met her in treatment. That was just luck. Um, but yeah. Okay. So that was my wilderness spiel. Any questions about the wilderness spiel?
No, not really. I do have questions like what led up to you being sent there in the first place.
Yeah. So I have bipolar disorder. I was diagnosed when I was 15. Prior to that, they tried a bunch of different diagnoses on me. Nothing really fit. The meds didn't really work. They tried a couple of things. They tried ADHD. They tried depression. They tried a bunch of different routes of how to medicate me because something was clearly off. Something was clearly wrong. And um, my parents were wealthy, so they were taking me to all the best doctors, all the best therapists, trying to figure out what the hell was going on with their daughter. And they wound up taking me to a doctor of psychology, and she did 2 days worth of psych testing on me and came to my parents afterwards and said, this is the most textbook case of bipolar 1 I've ever seen in my life. And less than 2 weeks later, I was gone.
Okay, so they recommended that place to you then?
The lady who, Dr. Gody, the doctor who did the evaluation, said that I needed more intense treatment than the individual outpatient therapy I was receiving. She did not recommend a treatment center. She recommended more intensive therapy in a home setting.
Okay, so
my parents were referred to an educational consultant by another parent who had gone through this. They got referred to an educational consultant who is still operating today. Her name is Jeanette Spires. She worked the Chicagoland area, and I know at least 10 different people who have been sent to programs by her.
Okay.
And and I know for a fact she gets kickbacks from it.
Yeah, for sure. No, yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. Okay, and did you get transported or did your parents bring you to the wilderness place?
My parents brought me. My dad brought me. My mom had to stay home with my sisters. I have 2 younger sisters, so my dad was the one who took me. We flew. I did go willingly, but it was framed very differently to me than what it actually was. And I think part of that was because my parents were sold a little bit of a bill of goods on what was going to happen and all the cool things I was going to get to do. And like, yeah, I have some cool skills now. I can make fire by friction. How many people can say that? I can say that. I can make fire by friction. I can make a shelter out of a tarp and some parachute cord. Not many people can do that, but I have all these random weird skills now because of wilderness. But I think that my parents were sold on the connecting with nature and hiking and having group and talking about things like they got sold on a brochure basically. And the brochure looked good. So and they talked to the admission director who at the time was the female therapist Maud. They talked to her and told her about me and everything, and she said, our program would be a good fit for her. And so that was the day my parents decided to enroll me. They told me the day before I was leaving. They didn't let me sit and fester with it. They told me the day before I was leaving, which thankfully was the last day before school started, so all my friends were free. So I called every friend I could think of, and I said, I'm being sent away. I want to see you guys. Come to this ice cream place. There's this like mom and pop ice cream place in the town that we lived in. I was like, come to the ice cream shop, come hang out with me, see me for the last time. I'm gonna be gone for a while. I don't know how long I'm gonna be gone for, but I just want to see my friends before I go. And so I think like 15 people showed up that night. We took pictures, we had ice cream, we had so much fun. And then the next morning at like 4 a.m., my dad woke me up so we could go to Chicago O'Hare to get on the flight. Like I said, I went willingly. And then again to the treatment center, I went willingly because of the brochures. See how those brochures come up again?
Yeah.
I originally had been talking to some of the other girls who were in the program. Some of them did eventually come in. I wasn't the only student for the whole 10 weeks. Some people eventually came in. And one of them had been to an RTC, and she had a horrible experience. And so she told me about it. And I was very much then of the mindset of like, I don't want to go to an RTC. I'd rather go to a therapeutic boarding school, which now, like, what's the fucking difference? But back then, to me, there was a difference. Like, it was a difference of like the severity of the level of care.
Yeah.
There was a difference to me in my mind at that point. And so when I found out that my parents were sending me to La Europa, my therapist took me to the office. She let me go on her computer and look at the La Europa website so that I knew what I was walking into. So it wasn't just a couple brochures she handed me. She wanted me to see the website. Like, they had the schedule on the website, and they had photos, and like they did talent shows. Like it seemed like an okay place to go. It seemed pretty damn good as far as residential treatment centers could be concerned. Um, that changed very quickly when I walked in the door. I got there at maybe 9:30 in the morning, something like that. And they had just finished their PE for the morning. The PE teacher got fired that day because he decided that a Jane Fonda workout video was appropriate for teenage girls. Yeah. Yeah. So he got fired on the spot. There was a lot of turnover with the staff because I think their conscience was getting the better of them when they were seeing how we were truly being treated. I mean, there were people who the psychiatrist wouldn't listen to them, and they were so over medicated to the point that they couldn't get out of bed to go to group because they physically did not have the energy to move. Me personally, they were able. I did okay with the I didn't like the psychiatrist at all, but he only made very minor adjustments to my meds. The major adjustments to my meds, the ones that made the real life changing effects, came after I left treatment. But while I was in treatment, it wasn't a positive experience. Every day it was some new drama, some new trauma, some new thing to worry about or freak about. One of my best friends, she got put on consequence once that she couldn't talk to me. She's one of my besties. I had two besties there, Sophie and Madison. Madison wasn't allowed to talk to me, and it was indefinite. It wound up being for a month, but it was indefinite when they initially assigned it to her because the treatment team didn't like how close we were getting. So they put us on comm block and we weren't allowed to talk for a month.
Okay.
Telling each girl that she can't talk to her best friend for a month when she's going through all of these different traumatic experiences. I mean, they had groups on. I mean, they had groups on some of the weirdest. What did they call the group that they had for the kids, for the girls who had like a pretty sordid sexual history prior to coming to treatment? They had a class for them, a therapy class for them called sexual reactivity.
They make him reenact shit. Is that what they're doing?
No, it's rather than talking about what happened and how it's not like one of the girls was raped, for instance. She was talking about it.
Yeah.
And the therapist facilitating the group said, "Well, what could you have done to prevent it from happening?"
Oh, okay. So pretty much,
And
like, how is
and
this
I'm
your
sitting
fault?
and I'm like, "I beg your finest pardon."
Yeah. Essentially, gaslighting sessions where they're just essentially like, no, no, that didn't happen to you. Like, you're the reason that happened. You put yourself in that situation.
There was a girl, she was one of my roommates at one point. We came in like within a week of each other. She went home on a home pass, and she had an abusive ex boyfriend that she got a hold of, had sex with, got knocked up, went back to treatment, didn't know she was knocked up. Um, when you come back from a home pass, 3 weeks later, they automatically do a pregnancy test just because they need to know if you're pregnant or not. And she was pregnant, and she was forced to fly home to New Jersey to get an abortion.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Yeah. And rather than talking to her about it privately, so when you get to this treatment center, you get split into one of two communities. There's the Delta Phoenixes and the Revivals, and we were both Delta Phoenix. And she had to sit there and recount the events of exactly what happened and how it was her fault. And she had to do that in front of 15 other teenage girls and 5 staff members. Like, I can't even imagine the level of embarrassment that she was feeling in that moment. That's one of the reasons why I really tried to keep my head down as much as I could and not cause problems. I learned really, really quick how to say what they wanted to hear.
Yeah.
I think we all get good at that at some point.
Yeah. Okay. How many people were at the wilderness place? Like,
So the wilderness place, the maximum at the time they only had 2 groups, one male, one female, and there was a maximum of 6 kids in each group. So they had a maximum of 12. Now they have since expanded. I do know that they have several groups for each gender, and if I'm not mistaken, they also have a non-binary group as well. But yeah, no, they have multiple groups for each gender now, as they've grown. Because I was the 8th student to ever go to that treatment center. It was that wilderness program. It was brand new. I was like the 7th or 8th person to go there. So I don't think the abuse and the pain that I experienced, that's not growing pains. That's not growing pains. That's sadistic and abusive.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very lucky that my husband actually understands all of this because he is also a T.T.I. survivor. Yeah, he is a T.T.I. survivor. He also spent some time behind bars, so he knows what it feels like to have all of your rights and choices stripped away from you. And it makes it a lot easier for us to talk to each other about it because he knows that I get it. And I know that he gets it. And I don't have to sit there and explain to him 65 million things in order for it to make sense.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Okay. How many people were at the other so Europa, I've actually interviewed one other person from there.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you tell me who?
Well, it's on my channel. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I think it might have been Elisa or something like that. But I've done a lot of videos, so I can't really remember. But
I'll look, because Europa is a doozy. So originally, when La Europa started, they bought this really, really big. It used to be a bed and breakfast, and all the rooms were named after cities in Europe, hence the name La Europa.
Yeah, where did that
They
name come
kept
from?
they kept the name because of the plaques on the doors. All the doors were named after different cities, and there's Brussels and Munich and Helsinki, and like there's all these different, and they would put a few students in each room. The biggest room I was ever in was 5 students, including myself. Um, Total in the house, there was never more than 32 girls, 16 in each community. On any given shift, each community had 4 staff members who were each responsible for 4 students. And so that meant that if you were on line of sight, which I'm sure you know what line of sight is, but for your listeners, you may not know, line of sight is when your staff member who you're assigned to has to be able to see you clearly. And then there's also something called 5 foot, where you have to stay within 5 feet of that staff member at all times. Um,
They
which
trusted
I
people
feel
enough.
like that happens in more than just La Europa, but
Yeah.
and if you're on suicide watch, they take your shoes, they take your belts, they will that's they would not let us take our bottles of shampoo into the shower with us to bathe. They were nice bathrooms, so they had like a little ledge you could sit on in the shower. They would take our shampoo, put it on the ledge for us, and then take the shampoo bottles back because they couldn't trust us with shampoo. I joked that behind every rule at La Europa there was a name. The reason we're not allowed to take shampoo in there is because somebody tried to drink the damn shampoo.
Yeah. Yeah, they would lock
Every
up all.
rule has a name. Any treatment center you go to, any rule, it has a name.
Yeah. You know, they did that. They would lock up everything at the place I went to. And
We had little like plastic baskets that we put all our hygiene stuff in, and then they got locked in closets too.
yeah.
We were allowed to wear makeup minimally, and usually only for like special occasions or holidays. Like I was there for New Year's, and I was the one who rigged up the bunny ears on top of the television so we could watch the ball drop. And they let us like go all out with like our makeup and our outfits and stuff. And they took us to Goodwill. And then this is like one of my positive memories from there. They took us to Goodwill. We got some like New Year's hats and like sparkly necklaces and stuff, and we had a New Year's Eve party. It was fun, and then not all of my experiences there were bad. Like I had some good ones, like Thanksgiving, for instance, the year I was there. I'd been there 3 weeks at that point, but because I'd only been there 3 weeks, I wasn't eligible to go home for a home pass. So I had to stay at La Europa for Thanksgiving. And I was the only one who knew how to cook. I was the only one who knew how to cook. And so I went to the staff members and I asked, are we having a Thanksgiving dinner? If so, what are we having? Because none of these people know how to cook. And they're like, well, we were going to order Chinese food. And I'm like, okay, firstly, we're not Jewish. Secondly, take me to the damn store, buy a turkey, get me the rest of the stuff that I need, and I will cook you a Thanksgiving dinner. Because my parents have been teaching me to make Thanksgiving dinner since I was old enough to operate a stove. So I cooked for 45 people because we had some of the staff members brought their families. Some parents came into town to see their kid, even if the kid couldn't go on home pass. So I cooked and served food for about 45 people, which was fun to do, but a lot of work. I made those 2-gallon pitchers you make Crystal Light in?
Yeah.
I had 2 of those full of gravy.
Nice.
You can never have enough gravy.
Yeah, nice.
Like it wasn't all like the majority of it. I would say 85% of my experience there was bad. Was negative, where I don't have a nice thing to say about that particular person, that particular therapy group. And then I would say the other 15% of the time we actually had a little fun. You know, when I was in wilderness and we would be hiking to keep us from being bored, we'd sing while we hiked. We used to sing What I Got by Sublime and I Miss You by Blink 182 because those were two of the songs that everybody knew the lyrics to.
Nice.
Both very good songs. Um, but yeah, that's the thing. It's like it wasn't all bad. It wasn't all good, but it was way, way, way more bad than it was good. And I still have issues with the things the treatment, imparted on me. Um, I'm afraid of new people. I am really, really cautious and wary of new people until I know that I can trust them. Um, uh, you know, something important for adult relationships is sex. For the longest time after I left treatment, I had issues surrounding that topic, and it made it difficult for me to engage in that. And most teenagers do engage in that, and I wasn't. And people would ask me, why don't you want to? I'm like, I was like, I just don't want to. I just don't want to. I just don't want to. Um, but every time I even mentioned a boy at home, even if it was just somebody I was doing a science project with, my mom's like, oh, is he going to take you out on a date? And I'm like, Mom, I'm not interested in dating. I'm trying to pass my science class here and I'm failing. I need his help. I don't need a date. Um, and even after I left, like part of the reasons why they said they sent me to treatment was because they didn't care for the people that I was dating, and they thought that they were dangerous. They weren't dangerous. Not the three guys that I dated before I went to wilderness. None of them were dangerous. None of them. And my parents just decided they didn't like them. And so I think that was another part of the reason why they sent me away was because they wanted to get me away from those people so that I could, come to some grand realization that these people are not ones that I should be spending time with. And I'm still friends with people from before treatment. I'm my friend Olivia who lives in Chicago. She's got two kids the same age as mine. Um, she and I met at a what do you call it? A intensive outpatient program at the local hospital. Um, we met there and we became instant friends. And you're never supposed to be friends with people from those places, but we were friends and we still talk like several times a week. Even 18 years later, we still talk several times a week. Um,
Okay.
I lost a lot of my peace of mind and my sanity and my trust in the world in general, but I gained some pretty badass people in my life. Um, my husband is one of them. He, like I said, he's a survivor, gets it. I don't have to tell him that, Ned, he's a survivor as well. He went through a slightly different route than I did. He went the juvie to jail route, but it's all very similar to the way that we're treated in these treatment centers. And he's still dealing. He's been out for 15 years now, and he still has nightmares about it. 19 years later, he still, has panic attacks surrounding it, especially like if he's confined. And I get the same way. If I'm confined to a space and I can't leave, I get anxious. I get so anxious. Which is why whenever I go anywhere, Ned drives. Somebody comes with me. That is a peace of mind thing for me. I don't even go to the grocery store by myself. Like I have too high of anxiety about strangers. Um, and That's why I don't go to the grocery store anymore by myself. My husband will go with me, and then we'll also take his service dog with us. He has a service dog named Sirius, who's a German Shepherd. And then we have a 11-year-old terrier named Molly. But they are Sirius has been an absolute lifesaver. My husband almost died last year in a really serious car accident, and Sirius, he has balance issues now, so Sirius helps him up and down the stairs, and a bunch of other things. But we're really grateful that we have him.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad that your husband was okay from that car crash. So how long were you at the La Europa then?
2 days shy of 9 months.
Okay.
I got there on November 1st. It made it easy to keep track.
Okay, and did you graduate or did you?
I did graduate. I didn't age out. I graduated. I was 16 when I graduated.
Okay.
And because of La Europa and True North, I was actually able to graduate high school a year early. Because in Illinois, you need 4 years of gym and 4 years of English to graduate. You need 3 or less of everything else. And at the end of my junior year, I had everything except my senior year English credit. And I straight up told the dean of students, if you make me come back here next year, I will wind up in the hospital trying to kill myself. Because, and this is not a lie, an exaggeration, or a joke, I went to the high school they based Mean Girls on.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I straight up told the dean of students, if you make me come back here, there's going to be problems. And so they decided to let me do my English as an independent study over the summer. And in August, when all of my friends were starting their senior year of high school, I was starting my freshman year of college.
Nice.
Yeah. So, that was one good thing that came from all of that was I was able to graduate a year early. That looks really nice on a resume.
Yeah.
So, that was one small positive that came out of it. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question?
No, I didn't have a second part to that question. I don't think. But yeah. What's the structure of what was the structure of the wilderness program, and then what was the structure of La Europa?
So, wilderness program, wake up was about when the sun would come up. It was the fall in Vermont, so the sun came up at a very reasonable hour at like 7 o'clock or so. So we'd wake up, we'd pack, unless we were staying at the same camp for the night, we would pack up our stuff into our bags, our tarps, our clothes, everything. We'd pack it all up. We'd go to like the common area that we would set up with a big fire and stuff. We'd cook our breakfast, which was oatmeal. They would give us a little, in our rations, they gave us a little bit of brown sugar, a little bit of dried fruit so we wouldn't get scurvy. They gave us some powdered milk, and then of all the things in the world, they gave us Tang. You remember Tang from the 90s?
Yeah, I remember that.
So we'd eat our oatmeal in the morning, and we dress it up. I like to put Pow Cow in my oatmeal. It made it really creamy and yummy. So that was breakfast. Lunch was a bagel with peanut butter. They sent you 7 bagels, varying types. They didn't care if we swapped bagel flavors with each other, because they just kind of randomly threw them in a bag. And if I didn't feel like blueberry, but somebody else had chocolate, and we wanted to trade, that was fine by them.
Nice.
And then the jar of peanut butter that we get, and it is still the only peanut butter I will buy is Skippy Natural.
Nice.
And it's the only one that I'll buy is because it's just peanuts and salt. It doesn't have any of the additives or anything in there. It's just peanuts and salt. It's as clean as you can get, and it's Skippy. I still buy it, like 18 years later. That is my choice of peanut butter at the store. Don't ask me why. And then for dinner, we ate rice and lentils together. They usually send some pasta, so we'd throw a handful of pasta in there to bulk it up a little bit. Um, I was probably so in the morning with the oatmeal, I was probably eating like if we're thinking like measuring cups that you bake with, I was probably eating a cup and a half of oatmeal in the morning, and I was not a very small. I was a very small person, so that's a tall order to be able to eat that much in one sitting. The bagel and peanut butter, I would always finish that. The rice and lentils, that was a struggle because when you're in that first week, you also are responsible for cooking your own food. The guide ration the food for you, and you have to eat it all, no matter how much there is, no matter how much is left, no matter how full you are, you have to eat it. They don't care if you puke twice while you're doing it. You have to eat it. Now, and then for dinner, we had. I'm sure you've seen those blue camping cups with like the dark blue with the little white speckles on them.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Actually, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So that was the cup that we ate out of. And if I were to portion my week one portions, if I was to portion that into that cup, it would have filled it to the brim and then some. Now by the end of my time in wilderness, I could eat that amount of food no problem.
Because
And
you
I was
want you
burning
need the
thousands of
energy.
calories a day hiking, so I could, and my stomach had grown, so I could eat that much food because
Yeah.
I needed that much food to fuel my body with all the hiking we were doing.
Yeah.
And then on Monday nights, because we got our food rations on Mondays, we got a treat on Monday. We got Annie's mac and cheese for dinner on Mondays.
Nice.
That was our treat. That's what we looked forward to, was a box of mac and cheese from the grocery store.
That's crazy.
That was the highlight of our week, was mac and cheese.
That's crazy. But
it was, hey, it's great mac and cheese. But yeah, no,
it's better than what
rice,
you had been
the
eating.
rice and the lentils is also something that stuck. The tang, we drank the tang in our water, but the best way to do it was to create a Thai peanut sauce for your rice and lentils. You use tang, peanut butter, and a little bit of pow cow, and you can make a Asian peanut sauce.
That's sick. That's dope.
It takes a little bit to get the proportions right. The tang is very strong, so go easy with it at first, but it is so good. And you can take those really cheap ramen noodles, take some like cut up chicken, throw it in there, put the sauce in there. It's so good.
Nice. I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah, so that was, and then as far as like our days were structured, we woke up, we cleaned up, we hiked to whatever campsite we were going to next. When we would get there, we'd put our stuff down, we'd set up our shelters. That's when we had like activity time. So, like, one of the activities that they taught us how to do was how to build traps, and it was meant to teach us patience. And so, the rule was when you made your trap, you had to set it up and it had to stay up overnight in order for it to count. And so, I actually think I still have mine in my garage, if I'm not mistaken. But so we would do those, or we'd do activities in our workbooks, doing math on how many miles we walked, and what is that in kilometers, and what was the elevation change. That was our science homework, and our math homework was calculating all of that. And then we would have dinner, and then we would have a nighttime group, and the nighttime group was pretty typical of a T.T.I. closing the day group. Lots of blame placing, lots of broken promises, lots of mean things said. I think we've all been there.
Calling people out, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And La Europa did that too every night in community.
Yeah.
We had 2 community meetings a day. We had the morning meeting, which was mostly just announcements of like, hey, this is who your staff member is today. This is what's on the menu for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was a housekeeping meeting. The one at the end of the day, that was the one that could take like 2 hours because some girl is sitting in the center being berated by 15 other teenage girls. Um, it was I wound up in the center of that circle more than once. Um, I hurt myself being in that circle more than once. Like I actually like they almost had to take me to the hospital once because the cut was so deep. Now, luckily, the nurse was there and she was able to bandage me up with some butterfly strips, but it was borderline as to whether or not I was going to need stitches. And it was 100% because of what I experienced while I was sitting in the center of that circle that night.
Okay,
It
so
was like, it just, but as far as like a normal day is concerned, there, wake up around 7, hygiene breakfast, start school around 9, go from like 9 to noon. You would do 2 classes in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. Um, so we do our 2 morning classes in the schoolhouse, which was right. So they bought the bed and breakfast, and then they bought the house next door to it to be the schoolhouse. So we would go over to the schoolhouse. We'd have our school programs. They had licensed teachers that taught us. The teachers there, the staff members, they can go fuck themselves. The teachers were phenomenal. Um, the history teacher Eric was my favorite hands down. But
what about him?
We
What about him?
yeah, because he let us play video games.
Nice.
We got to play Oregon Trail and Civilization.
See, I don't think the teachers necessarily knew all the time exactly everything that's going on.
He did.
Okay.
He did.
Okay.
There were not many teachers. There were not many teachers. They were very aware of what was going on next door. I think they just kind of tried to block it out and pretend that it wasn't happening so that they didn't have to deal with the internal guilt of working at a place like that. The only staff members that I still talk to denounced the T.T.I. a long, long time ago. And they're the ones who have moved away, the ones who have done the work to support the survivors. They're the ones that I'll still talk to. But my wilderness therapist, my treatment therapist, I was very, very close with both of them. I went to one of their weddings. I was the only student that she ever had that was invited to her wedding, and I went. And when the program came out and health came out and all these documentaries start coming out, and all these organizations start forming, and I start learning more about all these other programs and what all these other kids are going through, and I'm like, wow, it wasn't just me. Like, I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. This wasn't just me and my experience. This happens to everybody.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started. When my friends were having mental health issues, they would come to me because they knew that I was going to give it to them straight. I had one friend who went to Hyde. I'm sure you've heard of Hyde. They're up in Maine, and I had a friend who went to Hyde, and she was so excited to go because her mother was an alumni. And I'm like, wow, you want to go to a place where your mother was routinely abused.
Yeah.
That sounds healthy. But then again, this mother is also the same mother who would look at her daughter and say, girl, you need to lose 15 pounds to make those pants look better.
Okay.
Yeah, but after we had our afternoon school done, we'd have a little bit of leisure time reading a book. We had a PlayStation 2 with very minimal games on it. We liked Guitar Hero. We weren't allowed to play certain songs, but we liked Guitar Hero. And then we'd have a little bit of downtime, we'd have dinner, a little bit more downtime, and then it would be time for nightly community meeting, hygiene, and then bed. The only differences on the weekends was that we didn't have school. We cleaned instead. We did deep clean all weekend. Deep clean means scrubbing grout lines with toilet or with toothbrushes. Just in case you're wondering how deep a deep clean is.
Yeah.
It's get on the floor with some Comet and a toothbrush and scrub that shit.
Yeah, and it's like you miss a spot on the fucking mirror. You had a little fucking hair coming off the mirror. You had a tiny
That
little
one
speck of dust.
tiny little drop of water that got on the mirror that I didn't get.
Yeah, you failed because you have one fucking speck of dust on your fucking mirror. There's so
And
many times when
heaven
that
forbid
happened.
you don't have hospital corners on your bed.
Yeah, your bed had to be made all the time.
Yeah.
What was the hardest part about being at the wilderness place, and what was the hardest part about being at?
The hardest part of the wilderness program is twofold. Number one, the inability to talk to people during my first week when I was acclimating. I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of feelings. I had a lot of doubts and insecurities, and I really wanted to talk to somebody about that. And I wasn't allowed to, and that really hurt. The other thing with the wilderness was the lack of care and respect that they showed for our bodies, and the sanctity of our bodies. For instance, someone who's 115 pounds should not be carrying 170 pounds on their back. When my mom took my pack to the UPS store to ship it home after I graduated, it weighed, with no food rations and no group gear, weighed 120 pounds.
Damn.
So if I had my food rations in there, that's easily another 20. If I have group gear on top of that, God knows how much that weighs. But they forced us to do this, even though there were two perfectly capable adults of helping. They wouldn't, because it was the student's responsibility. So that was the two parts of wilderness that really, honestly, to this day still bug me. The thing that is stuck in my mind forever and ever and ever is Black Saturday from Europa. Black Saturday, it was this random Saturday in February, and we were in our evening community meetings. And our community held ours in the schoolhouse, and I was at Delta Phoenix. The revivals held theirs in the boarding house, in the living room. And so we're having our community meeting. Everything's going fine. Nobody's upset. Everything's good. And Karen, who was the shift leader for our community, her phone rang, and they had little cell phones that each staff got to carry one. That's how they talked to each other. And her phone rang, so she stepped outside to take the call. And she came back in, and she whispered something to the staff member that was sitting right next to the door. And the staff member nodded their head okay. And then Karen went and sent out a text message, and I know it was a text because the other two staff members' phones went off with the text message. And at that point, I'm like, okay, something's up. Something's up. So we finished our community meeting. Everything is fine. It was just a normal community meeting. Nobody was upset or anything like that. It was just normal and boring. And we start to go to the door to go back to the house to go have hygiene time to go to bed. And Karen stopped us at the door, and she's like, we can't go back yet. The revivals are still in their community meeting, and they're having a pretty rough one. So we're going to give them some space. So if you guys want to read or play Guitar Hero or whatever you want to do to amuse yourselves, go right ahead. I'll let you know when we're able to go back to the main house and you guys can do hiking and stuff. And we were like, oh, okay, we didn't think anything of it. And then when they started taking us back to our rooms, they, instead of taking all 16 of us at once, they took us in 4-person groups, one staff member for 4 people, taking them straight to their room. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. I had to pass past the living room in order to get to where my room was. One couch had been flipped over. A chair had been thrown through the window. People were in restraints. People were being sedated. People were still yelling while we've got staff members restraining them. They're trying to beat the crap out of each other, and they've got 2 staff members each trying to hold them back. It was a hot mess. And so it became known as Black Saturday.
Okay, so kind of like possibly. Do you know what? Did you find out what happened to start that?
I don't know who it was because they were all like silent about it the next day, and I think that had something to do with their community leader Kate, because I think she said if I ever hear any of this shit ever again, you're all like nothing good will happen. So they did. None of them really talked about it afterwards. I did figure out who turned over the couch, and I did figure out who threw the chair through the window. The one who threw the chair from the window, I knew it was her because she got taken to the hospital because she grabbed one of the pieces of glass and started cutting herself. So she was the one who was at the hospital. 3 students had to be sedated with Advan. And then one really angry, really tall and strong girl flipped over a massive couch. And I mean, Hulk flipped it. It was, and then my room that I lived in was right off of the kitchen. So if the staff members were talking in like the dining area, I could sneak in and I could hear them talking. So I got the whole spiel of what went down after the fact. But it was like it was one of the most traumatizing things that I've ever been through because you walk into a house that is in normally nice clean order, and it wasn't. There was chairs all over the place, there was broken glass, there was it looked like somebody had come in and robbed the place. It looked like somebody had come in and robbed the place, and it was heartbreaking, especially since I was friends with the girl who did the window breaking, and she actually didn't come back. I don't know what happened to her. Her name was Haley, and I will never forget her because she was at my intensive outpatient before treatment as well. I met her there as well, and then she wound up at Europa. But after the window incident, um, from what I heard, my understanding is that she got sent to a full lockdown facility. That was what my understanding of it was. But I don't know what happened to her. I don't know where she is. She was local to where I'm from, and I know people who know her, but nobody knew where she was or anything like that. Um, a lot of people's parents lied about where their kids were. Um, a lot of parents, because they didn't want to own up to the fact that they couldn't fix their own kid, so they had to send them away. Um, it's my parents lied. My parents lied. They said I was doing Outward Bound and that I was really enjoying myself in Mexico. And then when I went to my treatment center, they said, "Oh, we found this really great boarding school for her, and she absolutely loves it there." And my mom, I got in a nasty argument with my mother over the weekend about this because in 2018, my wilderness therapist and my treatment therapist came to a conference here in Austin, and they were going to present me as a case study. And I was supposed to go on the stage with them and answer questions for the therapists because it was a convention of therapists. So I was going to go on stage and answer from the students' perspective how all of this affected me so that they can do better for their students. Well, lucky for me, the day of the event, I had to get my tonsils out. So I didn't get to go. But my mom the other day decided to throw in my face. She's like, "Well, why would you do that if it was so traumatic?" And I'm like, "Because I had been brainwashed and I hadn't been unbrainwashed yet. I was still very much one of the, oh, the program saved my life. No, it fucking didn't. No, it fucking didn't. I would, if I had gotten intense care in a home setting, I would have been much better off. I would have been I think my risky decision making would have been less, because when I got back, I had to cram a whole year's worth of risky decisions into one because I was manic as fuck. Um, Luckily, very, very, very luckily, my parents found me a great psychiatrist and a great therapist for when I got out. So I was very lucky to have them, and they were great supports for me, and they helped me work through some of the trauma and stuff that I experienced. But I was only able to work with them for a couple of years because I started seeing them in 2008, and then in 2011 I moved to Georgia. So I had to stop seeing them, which really sucked because I really liked Wendy and Anna. They were nice and they were really good at their jobs. But um, I was I'm very lucky. I still take medications for my bipolar disorder daily. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but it's called the Gene Site test. And anybody who has a psychiatric illness, I strongly recommend getting that test done. It's a cheek swab, it's a DNA test, but they create a report for you based on your DNA of what medications you're most likely to respond to and which ones you're most likely to not respond to. And it recommended some medicines for me that nobody would have ever have thought to try, but we tried it, and now I haven't had a major medication change in 9 years.
Nice. Nice.
All because of that test.
Nice.
So I highly recommend it. It's not that expensive. I think it's like if for you with you living as paycheck to paycheck as you are, it's expensive, but it's about $150, which for a test of that nature isn't that much money. But the information gained from that test is invaluable.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay.
What else you got?
Did anybody try and run from either of the places?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, you couldn't really run from Wilderness because the closest town was 30 miles away. The closest house was 10 miles away. There were no street lamps. You didn't have a compass or a map. There was no way you were going to find your way to either of those places in the middle of the night in Vermont when it's pitch black dark outside. And so we had a girl try to run one night, and the guides, they would only sleep half the night. They'd split duty on runner watch. So someone would sleep for 4 hours and wake up, and then the other one would wake up and then sleep for 4 hours.
Okay.
That's how they managed that. And then when I went to Europa, the girl who went missing, the girl who threw the chair through the window, she did.
Okay. And was there any places that they threatened you with, like if you misbehaved?
If we misbehaved, we were being sent up to the CERTS building, which was the office building, and you were going to get a talking to from the program director, Nora, who was a total bitch. Oh my God, I can't stand her.
Okay.
She's one of those people that thinks that she is so righteous and that she is doing so much good in this world that she can't take a hit to her own ego.
Yeah.
And it's funny because she's actually married to the nurse of the school. The whole school is very incestuous. Like relatives of people work there. Like it's a mess.
Yeah, cults tend to do that.
And at least 85% of the staff were Mormon.
Yeah, I'm not
including
surprised.
most of the therapists.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Not at all. Though something cool though was the year that I was in treatment. I was a huge American Idol fan,
Yeah.
and one of the people from American Idol back then, David Archuleta, was from Murray, Utah, which was the town that my treatment center was in. It's a Salt Lake suburb, but it's Murray, Utah. And there's a picture of me somewhere standing in front of this massive, like 20-foot tall banner that they put on the side of the high school that said "Home of David Archuleta." And as a graduation present, my therapist actually took me to the David Archuleta concert, and because that particular season, the two finalists were both named David. So Ryan Seacrest was like, "And the new American Idol is David," and then paused for dramatic effect. Yeah, so that was my like reward present for. Hold on one second, Ned, are you okay? Sorry, husband, balance issue. He fell.
Yeah.
He's good. He said he's good. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
I hear a loud thump upstairs, and I run upstairs thinking that it's him having fallen. No,
Yeah.
he's good though.
Okay.
Yeah, no, the concert was nice. The concert was fun. We got shirts made because she liked David Cook. I liked David Archuleta, so my shirt said Archuleta on it, and hers said Cook. Um, and it was fun. Like I really like I have such mixed feelings about my treatment therapist because on the one hand, I know I've had so many therapists in my life that I can tell when there's one that really, truly cares.
Yeah.
She is one of them. She has just chosen the wrong place to spend, her skills.
Yeah.
She has chosen to work in these facilities, and she thinks, and in her mind, she's doing the right thing. She's helping these people, and she's not. And I have her home address because she sends me a Christmas card every year. Fun fact, our kids are 4 months apart, and she's like in her 40s, and how old am I now? 33. 33. 33. My husband's birthday is the day before mine.
Nice.
Makes it easier to keep track of who's what age.
Yeah.
But no, I have really mixed feelings about Courtney because on the one hand, I know that she is genuinely trying to help. And yet on the other side, I cannot stand idly by and condone what she's doing. Even if what she's doing is coming from a place of love and compassion and she really genuinely wants to help, she is not going about it the right way. And kids are getting harmed and traumatized deeply by these programs, by people who can't make this distinction between what is right to do for a struggling teen and what is wrong.
Yeah. No, I agree. I definitely agree.
Like one of the most traumatic things that happened to me while I was there, I had a boyfriend in high school. His name was Harrison. Harrison was not the cream of the crop. We'll just say that. He was a little bit of a stoner. He was a hockey player. Listened to emo music. Stereotypical 14-year-old hockey playing boy. And he and I were still together when I went to Wilderness. Well, I didn't realize while I was in Wilderness that he broke up with me because I wasn't getting letters from home or anything. So I had no idea until Christmas break that I didn't have a boyfriend, and I was absolutely devastated because we had been together for a year and a half at that point. And so maybe 3 months later, they took the upper level kids on a trip to Moab to go hiking, and she forced me to burn his sweatshirt.
Damn.
she forced me to burn his sweatshirt because she said that I needed some form of closure. And that was the best way to do it, to burn an article of somebody else's article of clothing. Burn it.
Yeah.
There's pictures. People took pictures of it. If you go on my profile, if you go on my Facebook, you can see a lot of my fucking. I went to wilderness and treatment back in the day where we had digital cameras, not camera phones. I'm old. Well, we also had film cameras and Kodak. We had Kodak. Um, Crap, I forgot what I was going to say with that.
You were saying about the cameras, and then
Yeah, no, it's the thought left the station. It's gone now. It's on its way to Tokyo.
okay. Well, what have you struggled with the most as a result of being in these places?
I am really scared of confinement. Um, I get claustrophobic more easily than I used to. I used to never have any issues with claustrophobia. Now being on an airplane bothers me. Um, Being in a vehicle with someone I don't know driving, like an Uber driver, that's very difficult for me. One of the biggest things for me that's hard, and it's not because of treatment. My first husband was abusive, and he was Hispanic, and he has a very large family that is involved in a lot of crime organizations all over the country. And so when he and I split up, that was a ugly split. And I became genuinely, truly terrified of Hispanic men. Not because I'm racist, but because it might be one of his relatives. Like I skipped going to see my grandmother in Chicago for Thanksgiving one year because I knew he was going to be in Chicago and I didn't want to be anywhere near him because he, even after I left him, he tortured me. He would mail me things and show up at my house and all sorts of things that I could tell you that would make you want to vomit. Um, he tortured me for years after we divorced. Luckily, hasn't done anything in a really, really long time, so I think he's finally moved on. Only took him 10 years. Um, but so that's another one. And then another thing is I am more of a perfectionist now than I used to be, solely for the fact that the program demanded perfection. You were supposed to get perfect scores on your therapy assignments. You were supposed to get perfect scores on your school assignments. They wanted every score to be perfect when you took your GAD 7 and all your like in the last 2 weeks. How have you felt when you did all of those? They wanted you to be succeeding and perfect. And so I developed this really deep-seated perfectionism that I still struggle with today. Luckily, however, I have made it work for me because right now my work is as a personal assistant. So that skill comes in handy a lot in my line of work. Doesn't come in handy for a lot of people, but in my line of work specifically, it does. It really does come up a lot. And I'm glad that I have that experience because it makes me a better assistant to my clients. The last thing that I would say that's a truly lasting effect of wilderness and or treatment, I can't eat oatmeal anymore.
Yeah.
I can't eat oatmeal. And I used to love oatmeal. And they wouldn't even give us the flavored kind. It was just the big old box of rolled oats dumped in a Ziploc bag. There was no flavor. There was no nothing like. And so it's made me now that I can't eat plain oatmeal anymore because when you eat the same thing every day for 70 days, you don't want to eat it anymore.
Yeah. No, I feel
But something that has changed that's been for the better is that now, I've been like this right here. I've been working on this since I left treatment. It took me that long to get this book to where it needed to be, to get it perfect. I had so many different people edit that book and read it and make sure it was perfect for me. I have some very, very talented friends who I paid to make the cover art and stuff. Um, just to like really, make it hit home. Um, we've sold a ton of books already. I think we're up to like I'm having some issues logging into my Amazon account right now. But I'm pretty sure I've sold about 50 books at this point, and I have at one point I was number 61 on Amazon in survival biographies. So my hope is that with all the when this podcast comes out, when some of this other marketing stuff that I've got going on comes out, the sales for this book are gonna go through the freaking roof. And then once we've really got this one going and established, that is when we're gonna bring in the sequel. The sequel is written, the cover art is done. A few small adjustments need to be made to the cover art, just like a couple millimeters here and there. I'm also going to be putting the book up with Barnes and Noble as well as Amazon, both books, um, so that we can access more readers that way. And then I'm also going to go around to some local bookstores here in Austin because there's tons. And I'm going to look into seeing about getting some book signings done.
Nice. That's awesome.
I'm taking lemons and trying to turn it into lemonade. That's the moral of the story here. Is I am trying to take 11 months and 28 days worth of lemons and make a little bit of lemonade out of it.
Yeah.
Because it was 11 months and 28 days was how long I was locked up for, and I'm trying. That's a whole lot of lemon.
Yeah. No doubt. Let's see. If you, if, let's see. Did anybody? Was there any grooming or any sexual abuse going on in either of these places?
I was not personally. There were some girls who were groomed a little bit by some male staff members. Um, Luckily, when they told when they told the upper staff members about it, something was done. Something was done about it because they didn't want a lawsuit from a parent from a kid on their 5-minute weekly phone call to tell them that somebody sexually assaulted them. Um, I do, however, know that, and I consider it a form of assault, but why does somebody need to wash and change my clothing?
Yeah.
Why does a male need to stand and watch me change my clothing? If you need somebody to watch me change my clothing, fine. Make it a woman.
Yeah.
I'm a woman. She has the same parts that I have. They're just different sizes and in different places. Why do you have a 30-year-old man watching a 16-year-old girl change?
Yeah. No, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't, like, it's obvious. It's not like I was raped or anything, but like that's sexual abuse.
Yeah.
Like that's completely sexual abuse, and I know many girls who were like, I don't know if grooming was the right word, but brainwashed into believing that their desire to have sex made them dirty and bad. Um, did I mention the girl who had to have an abortion? Did I bring her up?
I think you
I
did
did.
at the beginning. I
The,
think.
the one who went home, got pregnant, and came back and had the abortion. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, her life did not end up well. Not at all. She stopped talking to me because I kept pointing out all the things she was doing wrong, and she didn't want to hear it. And now, if she had listened to me, she would still have her husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you go fuck around with your high school boyfriend, get knocked up again, and then try and say it's your husband's kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Hot mess.
Yeah.
Hot mess.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah. If you could go back in a time machine and not go through what you went through, knowing what you know now, would you do it and why?
That is an excellent question. I would go to wilderness because wilderness gave me the wake up call that I needed. I know now that I am physically capable of doing the demands of a wilderness program, and I actually like camping. Um, so that would be easier for me. Now, on the other hand, going back to a treatment center, you could not pay me enough. And my last job that I had was as the general manager of a Papa John's. And just south of Austin, there's a town called San Marcos, which is where Texas State University is. And when I was the GM of that store, Papa John's had a deal with the football program at the school that every time there was a home game, there was going to be one pizza per player. That's 150 pizzas. And then they had the option to add on up to an additional 30 pizzas. Bear in mind, these are all large pizzas with 8 slices in them. 180 pizzas. I will never do an order that size ever again. I have worked at both of the college stores here in Austin, the one next to UT downtown and the Texas State store in San Marcos. I've run both of those stores. College, what was the hell was those balloons there?
I don't know. I don't know.
But yeah, no, college stores can go fuck themselves. I am not a college store girl. Yeah, no, but the thing about the San Marcos store, and I hated this. Every Friday night, the San Marcos Treatment Center, which is a treatment center just like La Europa, would call and order for pizza night every week.
Wow.
And that was especially traumatizing for me because guess what La Europa did on Fridays every week? Papa John's pizza.
Yeah, traumatizing.
And I worked for Papa John's for 5 years.
Yeah, fast food sucks.
So every bite of pizza I took was just a little bit of trauma.
I can imagine. I can definitely relate. Okay. And what do you think would have helped you instead of being sent away?
The first thing that would have helped is if I could have interviewed some therapists. The first therapist that I went to, my parents picked for me. I wasn't involved in the selection process, and I didn't like that. So I would want to participate in the selection of the therapist and also the psychiatrist. I would have very gladly done a program that I could go to during the day and come home at night. And I did several of those programs when I lived in Chicago. There are a dime a dozen up there. They've got so many major hospitals that have good psychiatric floors, and I luckily found a great hospital that had a great psychiatric staff. I would have rather done that and do intensive outpatient therapy with my therapist and, seeing my psychiatrist every other week or whatever. I would have done so much better in a home environment, getting intense care, but at home. Because when I was in wilderness, my parents sent me what they called impact letters, where they talked about the impact that me and my behavior and my problems had on them. Both my parents wrote one, both my sisters wrote one. My dad and his said, I'm the reason he doesn't want to come home from work. Because he knows that if he comes home from work, me and my mom are probably going to be fighting. My dad straight up said that to me, and I was sobbing as I was reading that. You want to tell him? So after we got married, just to give you an idea of how horrible my parents are, my parents stole my kid from me. They conned me into giving them custody so that they could get insurance for him. And then a couple weeks later, my husband got thrown out, and then a couple weeks later, I got thrown out. Um,
Of the
but
house?
they of their house, we were homeless. Straight up, they thanked him for taking me off their hands.
Thanked.
Those were their exact words.
Thanked who?
My husband,
Oh, okay.
Ned. Say hi.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, no. They thanked him for taking me off their hands.
Wow. That's fucked up.
That is extremely fucked up.
Yeah.
And supposedly my mom liked Ned because they used to be drinking buddies. I'd get home from school, he'd get home from work. My mom would already have the tequilas and sodas with lime poured and ready to go, and they'd go on the back porch and shoot the shit and have the greatest time in the world. And then one day, my mom decided to look up Ned's criminal history because she knew that he had a past, and she showed me all of these documents, and she twisted it and like was pointing things out that weren't even his charges, because my Ned is Ned the fourth. His father is Ned the third. So their stuff gets mixed up a lot because they have the same name. And so some of the charges that she was trying to some of the charges she was pointing out was like gun trafficking and shit. And I'd been told what he went to prison for. He had told me previously. I won't share that now because that's his business. He had told he told me why he told me why he went to prison. And my mom went on one of those websites and found his criminal record and found all of these different charges that I had no idea about. She, however, neglected to mention the date of the charges. I'm sorry. Ned was not slinging dope at the daycare when he was 2.
Yeah. That's
He was
crazy.
not holding up a store with a gun at the age of 4.
Yeah.
That was his father.
Yeah.
Like he was not selling 8 baggies of weed to the little kids at the daycare. No. Dad was a gangster. Dad was a gangster, and he lived that life. But literally until the day he died. He passed away a couple years ago, which was really sad. Because he understood what it was like, because he spent a lot of time in prison. And so he understood what Ned went through. He understood what I went through. And so I could talk to him about it openly. Not like I can't, in a way that I can't, in the way that I could never talk to my parents.
Yeah.
The only part of my story that my parents understand is my dad's mother. He will deny it until the cows come home, but I know it for a fact. So the woman that I know as my grandmother on my dad's side is my step-grandmother. She married my grandfather when my dad was 13. My dad's biological mother killed herself when he was 11. And she was mentally ill. But back then in the 60s, they didn't know shit about shit. And so they went and, facilitized her. They put her in facilities. And she probably had bipolar disorder. Based on the descriptions that my dad gave, he got in touch with some of his old relatives from his mom's side. A lot of my contemporaries, like generation-wise, were diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and that's when they took me to see Dr. Katy to get all the testing done. But every time my dad looks at me now, he sees his mother. Because I'm sick like she was.
Yeah.
So now every time I'm in the room, he's having flashbacks to all the horrible crap that his mother put him through because of her illness, because it was untreated. And they won't give me my kid back. I am a fit mother. I'm a great mom. They won't give me my kid back because they're convinced that I'm not worthy of it yet. Well, yes, they also have tons upon tons upon tons of money, and we'll be able to hire the best lawyers in the city when we finally go for custody. But we're going to wait until he's 12 because in Texas, when they're 12, they get a say.
He's already been saying he wants to be.
And for the past 2 months, every single time he has to go back to my parents' house, he asks, "Why can't I just stay here? I want to stay here, mommy. Why can't I just stay here?"
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Yep. So we're biding our time, gathering evidence. They'll get what's coming to them eventually. And honestly, both of my parents are in their mid late 60s, and they're getting up there in age. And if one of them passes away, I really don't see the other one wanting to continue caring for a child. I really don't see it. So my kid will come back to me if one of my parents passes away. And my parents have been so horrible to me. They've completely kicked me out of the family. I didn't even know my sister got married until I saw the pictures online afterwards.
Wow.
I didn't find out she was pregnant until she was 4 months along, and my son told me.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
like that. That's how I didn't even. I didn't know that I'm still getting used to the new terminology. My sibling Haley changed their pronouns, so they have not changed their name. They have just changed their pronouns. But they also have, number one, the best resting bitch face you've ever seen in your life. Number two, naughtier than somebody bawling their eyes out, and she has the biggest superiority complex I've ever seen. She thinks she is better than everybody, and I'm sorry, she's the only person in the family not using her degree. By degree, she's a botanist. She studies plants. She's a tree hugger for a living, and she works customer service for a startup that works with bikes.
Wow. Damn.
Yeah.
That's shitty.
Really use that science degree, huh?
Yeah.
And I still haven't even finished college, and up until last year I still made more than my middle sister, Tara, the one who's married and now pregnant with a little girl.
Okay.
But
That looks pretty awful.
yeah. Well, Tara and Ryan aren't as bad as Haley. Tara's just a bitch. Ryan's nice. Ryan.
I haven't met Ryan, but everyone.
Yeah, Tara. Out of my two siblings, Tara's the better of the two. Because when I found out she was pregnant, I texted her. I said congratulations, and I asked if it would be okay if I made the baby a blanket. Because I crochet, and she said yes, that would be fine. And she gave me some color suggestions. And I told her, I'm like, look, I may not be a part of the family anymore, but this is still my niece, and I'm still gonna love her, and I'm still gonna send presents. And if you guys come here to Austin and she wants to come see Auntie Katy, I'm totally fine with that. But if you want me to send the presents and you give them from you guys, that's fine. But that's my niece. I don't have any other nieces or nephews. My Haley, they will never have children. I'm surprised they have not had their tubes out yet. I'm very surprised by that.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. And have you? Where are you with your parents? I know you just said your parents are difficult. But
the only reason I speak to my parents is to coordinate the scheduling with my child.
Okay, so they don't know really how you actually feel about the boarding school.
Oh no, they do. My mom read my book.
Oh, okay. What did
And she tried to say that I twisted it and I made her out to be the bad guy, and that's not how it went down, and your memories are twisted and warped. And I'm like, bitch, you weren't even there. How are you to tell me that I'm wrong and that I'm remembering things incorrectly? And she's like, well, you said that I hit you once. And I'm like, yeah, you fucking did. I was in seventh grade. We were arguing. I can't remember what about, but we were arguing. And I wanted to go and take a walk to cool off. So I grabbed my keys and I went to the back door. The back door was like half wood, half glass. And I was reaching for the door handle. My mom took her hand, shoved the door shut, pushed me against the door, and said, "You're not leaving right now." And when I tried to push back and say, "Yes, I am. I don't want to be around you right now. I'm going for a walk," she slapped me across the face.
Unbelievable.
And and I was 12. She really thinks I'm gonna forget that. I was 12.
Yeah, that's messed up. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Yeah, but they haven't improved. They haven't improved. They think that they can do no wrong. They are parent and grandparent of the year, and they are, they've done very well for themselves financially. It's just been they're hell to deal with. They're conceited and snotty and rich, and they act like it. And I live a completely different lifestyle than they do. I live your average middle class lifestyle. Like I don't have fancy house $1 million houses like my parents. Like the one I grew up in Chicago was $1 million when we bought it. Like not a lot of people grow up in those kinds of houses. I did, but I luckily came out of it with a good head on my shoulders. Not like my two sisters who were so spoiled that they can't function without my parents' help. I know for a fact that my middle sister still has a credit card that my parents paid for.
That's crazy. Have they seen the program? Or do they refuse to watch it?
I don't know if my mom or dad have watched it. Tara and Haley won't. They don't care enough. My parents, I've told them about it, and I've told them about the one that's coming out on HBO too. And they don't believe it. They're still in the brainwashing.
So they're just
and I don't think they're ever going to get out of it. Wow. I really don't.
So they just made a whole documentary and made it all up, I guess. They just made it all up.
It's not that they made it all up, but it's like, but that's not where.
No, I'm just saying that's what you're
way better.
I'm just saying that's what your parents probably think is that they must have made up this entire documentary, you know.
Either that or, well, we sent her to a nice facility. We didn't send her to one of those.
Yeah.
That was, I guarantee you that's the thought my parents had. Like, well, we didn't send her to one of those facilities, but we did send her away. And being sent away is part of how I wound up with one of my diagnoses, borderline personality disorder, which is caused by feelings of abandonment. That started at a young age when I was little, when my youngest sibling was born, when Haley came home from the hospital. I remember very vividly the day that they came home from the hospital. And Haley, there's this picture of me my mom is sitting at the kitchen table holding Haley, and there's this picture of me just kind of like looking at her and like in a poker face. And I forgot where was I going with that?
You're talking about the picture.
Oh, abandonment. Yeah. Two parents, 3 kids. Dad and Haley were always together. Mom and Tara were always together. And that left me in the middle. So, for instance, my parents are golfers. How many people can you fit in a golf cart? 2.
Yeah.
So when we go golfing as a family, how many carts do we need? 2. Well, technically we need 3, but I wasn't old enough to drive a cart yet. So Dad and Haley would go and get one. Mom and Tara would go and get one. And there I am in the middle. Nobody wanted me. Nobody asked me to go and ride with them. I got forgotten about. And they would go to every single one of Tara's diving meets. And if I was in a play, they'd go once. I did a lot of theater and acting in high school and dancing, and they would go to one show. And they would go to every single one of Tara's diving meets. And Tara is like a college champion diver. She's very skilled. But she all of her games my parents showed up to, all Haley played soccer, so they showed up to all of their games. They'd show up once, maybe twice if I was in a play. If my mom was gonna help with anything, she was gonna come before the show and help put makeup on everybody. Because we were all teenagers and didn't know how to do our makeup properly for a stage. Um, my mom was one of the best people there to do hair. There was this one guy that was an actor that I was with. His name was Patrick, and his hair grew straight forward like this. There was no combing it back. It would go, and he had to play Gaston. And I don't know how much you remember about Beauty and the Beast, but Gaston has his hair slicked back. And it took me and my mother half a bottle of gel, an entire bottle of hairspray, and some well-placed blonde-colored bobby pins to get his hair to stay. And it stayed so well that it still looked that way when he showed up for school the next morning.
Wow.
And on the final day of the play, he was running really, really late. He was like 45 minutes late for makeup. Curtain was coming. He runs into the room and he screams, "I need a boil! I need a boil right now." My maiden name's Boyle. He's like, "I need a boil! I need a boil right now! My hair is messed up!" And so me in full costume and my mom were like both working on him. She's doing the hair, I'm doing the makeup. We're both working on him because he's like right at the beginning of the show. Like he comes out. I have a little bit of time until I go on the stage. I played one of the silly girls. The three girls that have a crush on him that fawn all over him. I was one of them.
Nice. Nice. And then I have one more question.
Yeah.
I think unless I forget it. I might have forgotten it. Actually. I think I might have forgotten it. But
All right.
do you have,
It'll come to about 5 minutes after we hang up.
yeah, usually that's what happens, yeah. But do you have anything else you want people to know about your experience or anything else that you might tell a parent thinking about sending their kid to a place like this?
If you have a child, and I'm saying this as a mother, I'm saying this as both a mother and a survivor. Your child will never benefit from being away from a loving home. Your child will never benefit from strangers dictating any and every detail of their life, where they get no say, there's no autonomy, there is no independence, there's no room to grow and learn independence. And ultimately, they come out more damaged than they were when they went in. And so, I've seen people in groups saying, like, I've got this kid in this situation. What do I do? I send them the link to my book and I tell them my story. And I'm like, look, there are options. There are so many options to treat your child at home, where you can be with them and you can talk with them and you can love them every day and show them that you love them every day. That's the most important part. That's what I didn't get. That's why I wound up with borderline personality, because I didn't get that love and care and support from the age of 5 all the way till now. I never got that from my parents. And so if to any parents who are watching this, if you find yourself in a position where you are struggling with your teen, where you feel like they might be out of control and making really bad decisions, sending them away is never going to fix the problem, because the problem is going to still be there right when they get back. They're just going to put the pause button on it. And in order to get out of those places, because they are not a fun place to be, your child is going to learn how to lie and tell the therapists exactly what they want to hear so that they can get out of there. And then when you get home, lo and behold, they still have the same issues. Why? Because then the issues never really got worked on, because the staff was so busy tearing us down, they couldn't build us up.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. I'm glad we
Yeah.
figured it out. As always, it would be cool to do another episode. Hopefully, maybe when we figure out like fucking Skype or whatever the fuck, like, or just figure out the computer, or just figure out another way that we can stream it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And also, if you're interested in hearing about a different side of the troubled teen industry, my husband would be willing to do an interview, and he took a completely different route through the T.T.I than I did. His stuff started his journey started at the age of 5.
Okay, yeah, I'd be interested. I'd be
You'd
interested.
be interested.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll connect y'all on Messenger, and you guys can chit chat.
Yeah, we just need to figure out this whole. Well, I might be able to just record it like this next time, but it would be nice to figure out Skype or like figure out or maybe I'll just fucking.
I'm gonna spend some time tomorrow trying to get Skype working, because if I can get Skype working, then he can do the interview at my computer is literally right there.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
if we can get, I will try and get Skype figured out this
Okay.
week.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll be able to.
Or if not, just like see if you can figure out how to get like in Google Meets to where the record button is.
So I did read that, and it's only free up to 60 minutes.
I know, but for the 60 minutes, like, where's the record button? Is what I'm wondering. You know
I'll
what I mean?
look for it. I'll look for it. I do a couple Google Meets a week for work, so I'll poke around with it and see what I can find.
Okay, yeah, and then worst case scenario, we can just do this again.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And Ned is totally down to share his story. He's got a real interesting one.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm definitely interested for sure.
Yeah, no, his route started because his mother couldn't stay sober and his father couldn't stay out of jail. So that's how his whole saga began.
Yeah, I just did an interview similar to that. Those are interesting interviews. So yeah, I'm interested for sure.
You're gonna like Ned. You're gonna like Ned. Ned's a lot of fun.
You're about to hear the realest shit you've ever fucking heard in your life. I promise.
Okay.
I don't know. He's done some interviews, man. Yeah, you gotta listen to some of these interviews he's done.
Yeah, he's about to hear actual, real gangster shit. Not that shit you see on fucking TV. Not Goodfellas.
No.
Okay, I'm interested.
Not Orange is the New Black. Not Prison Break.
No,
real shit.
Not more like the movie Blow.
Interesting. Okay. Not the movie I would have chosen, but okay.
Yeah. Kind of like the movie Blow.
All right.
All right.
Well, yeah, we will be in touch, and I will schedule that interview, and we'll link up or whatnot.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, and if you guys have watched so far on the video, please make sure that you hit the like button, subscribe if you're not already, hit the notification bell. It really helps. Leave a comment down below. Just say who you are and like what school you went to, or like what kind of trauma you went through like growing up, or what addiction you have. What's your drug of choice? Like how many days sober or whatever. And then if you want to be interviewed, say that, and we'll make it happen. And thank you guys so much. We will catch you on the next one. Bye, y'all.
Right. Don't forget, 7 Circles of Hell is available on Amazon.
Yep, and the link will be down below in the description of this video. All right,
awesome.
We will catch you on the next one. Have a good night, y'all.
All right, you too. Bye.
All right, bye.